Hi. So, as many people will know, it's been on the news. It's been all over LinkedIn. Recently, the government announced some kind of EV grant for people to help people buy new electric vehicles. And I have many people ask me for my opinion on this and my views and my advice on it. Really, as many of you know, I help hundreds of electric vehicle drivers. Through their business, secure an electric car, and also the businesses. And I've been doing that for a long time. And as an EV driver myself now since 2012, so into my 13th year of driving electric vehicles, I'm kind of experienced in all these changes that happens. And until now, I've not really said anything. I've been involved in a few threads on this subject. It's obviously quite an emotive subject, talking about grants, taxpayers' money, etc. On here, some interesting comments, some angry men blaming me for it, but I'm used to that. And but until now, I've not really said anything. And I must get asked 5, 6, 7 times a day, what's your thoughts on this grant and what's happening with it and things like that. And with any change, I just like to sit back and see what happens, because I have a saying where the headline is never the story, and this could be one of those. So here's my thoughts on this EV grant. The question is, do you think we should have had this? Do you think we needed this, etc., etc.? So I'm quite free speaking, so this is called an EV grant ramble. It's not going to be filtered. It's not going to be edited at all. It's not my style to do that. You get me. And it's probably going to be 10, 15 minutes longer, who knows? But so my views on the EV grant is this. We didn't need it. The industry didn't need it. It certainly wasn't needed. What's happening with electric vehicle is the growth is coming. And yes, the growth is driven by business, company cars and salary sacrifice. There is no doubt about that. But what that does, the growth in business leasing and companies taking electric vehicles, and the growth in salary sacrifice is that provides a pool. The pool is a second-hand pool of cars, and whatever we do to affect the new car market will eventually come down into the used car market. Now, sales are up on electric vehicles, and also what I've noticed for the first, I don't know, probably the first 5, 6 months of this year is the attitude towards the change was completely different. People were looking at it in a more positive way. There was a much more, dare I say it, grown-up conversations from people about the possibility of moving from a petrol, diesel, whatever car they had now into an electric. And look, I'm not one of these people who sit and preach and say, "Oh, the electric vehicles are perfect and everybody should have one," because I'm not that person. And anyone who's been in a consultation with me would know that, because it's important that when people are spending a lot of money, whether it's a monthly or an outright, that it's the right thing. And for me as a consultant, it's really important in my ethics as well to make sure that I give that right advice based on my experience, based on my knowledge, and based on my education. So. I've noticed this change in attitude towards EV, and actually, we've gone from, oh, I'll wait till a car can do 200 miles, or it take 14 hours to charge, or there's no charge points, etc., etc. They're too expensive. These barriers are coming down. And what we're also seeing is a huge increase in used car sales in the electric vehicle market. In fact, I believe it's the biggest, fastest growing sector of engine in the or fuel source in the used car market, which is a great thing, because what that shows is the cars that are on lease, because basically the used car pool is predominantly filled by ex-business lease cars and ex-daily rental cars. So the cars that have been out on lease 2, 3, or 4 years time are now filtering into that used car market, and people are seeing them. I'm thinking, yeah, this is a realistic alternative. I can do this. They might have a drive at home. They might not do many miles, or they might just like a smooth drive. But everyone's got a reason that they're doing something. And so that's buoyant. That's been buoyant. Now, Along comes the government with this massive announcement, like, "Oh, great, we're going to give you up to 3,700 whatever pounds off a new electric car if you buy a new electric car." And actually, um, it's not as straightforward as that. Then, when they come out with this announcement, and then straight away my inbox is full of, "Oh, hi Paul, can you quote me on this? Can you quote me on this?" So does that mean that your car you quoted me on last week is going to come down £3,700? And like anything, the public sector is what it is, and where is the guidance on that? And it turns out the devil in the detail is quite deep, and we still don't know to this day, 2.5 weeks on from this big announcement, what cars qualify for that. And then the negativity comes back into the conversation. "Oh, it's taxpayers' money. Oh, you have to subsidise them. Oh, we have to, if they're that good, why do you have to give them away, etc., etc." And that's where I don't see this as a positive thing. I'm all for the growth of electrification of vehicles, but it's got to be in a sustainable way. And people might think, "Oh, that's rich coming from you because you get paid to supply electric vehicles." Well, my income does come from supplying businesses and the drivers with electric vehicles. There's no denying that, and I'm quite proud of doing what I'm doing. It was a decision I made in 2019, 2020 to go down this road of pure electrification. And there are people that I do advise that they're not right. The car's not right for them, whether it's because the cost or driving style or just their fears and their doubts in it. I don't know. The idea that this change is it's a simplistic change, and I know there's many people out there who have moved into EV simply, and they've been doing it. They might be on their second or third car now, and that is, as you're getting more experience, like anything that you use. I'm absolutely terrible with my iPad because I've never used one before. But on a PC, I can use one to a basic level. So anything you use, it takes some getting used to, and certainly for me, technology is changing for me is always a barrier. But so I did say to the ramble. But people are seeing that. That people have seen that experience and things like that. So a sustainable change. What I mean by that is, the government set out a 28% EV out of all the cars sold in the UK, new cars or registered, that 28% have to be fully electric. And that's interesting because that figure also includes manufacturers who don't have an EV proposition, but obviously still sell their ICE cars. And there are still some manufacturers that do that. Some manufacturers haven't embraced this at all, and they've got a terrible EV proposition, and then look to get in help. And then some have really adopted this change, and they're doing incredibly well, way over the 28%. And that they're success stories in that change cycle to do that. You've also then got the whole anti-China, anti-Chinese cars thing and buy British and things like that, which I totally respect. But what we have to remember is the UK hardly manufactures anything anymore in terms of this kind of thing. Yes, there are cars made in the UK, but the vast majority of us drive a vehicle that's either not manufactured in the UK or the components aren't manufactured in the UK, and therefore, the people, we're a global economy. We're all linked globally, and no matter what some politicians try and do about that, it's still there, and it will be now because that's the world we created, whether we like it or not. That's what it is. So we've got this whole anti-Chinese, or should Chinese cars qualify for this, etc., etc. And my opinion on that is yes, of course they should. If this money is there for someone in the UK, a resident or a business worker or a business owner or a driver, if the idea of this scheme is to get more people into electric vehicles, then yes, of course, that should be applicable to this. But going back to my original point is, do we need this thing? No, we didn't need this thing at all. We enjoy it as a specialist electric vehicle broker, amazing relationships with manufacturers and dealership groups and funders that have significant discounts which we already use. And What's going to happen is let's take a Renault 5 for example, very popular car, sub £30,000, and who knows, it might qualify for this £3,750 grant. We don't know. 2.5 weeks on, and we also don't know when we will know. But if that's the case, then particularly from a leasing point of view, like any of these cars, the chances are, and history shows this. Now, this isn't just a hunch. History shows this. Data shows this. That when any incentive comes along like this, when any reduction in price comes in outside of a dealer margin, then the funders, when they're calculating a lease price, they will just simply change the residual value. So instead of residual value, for example, at £15,000 for a £30,000 car in 3 years, the likelihood that's going to drop. So this £3,750 or whatever it is, the benefit's not going to be there in full for the driver, for the end user, for the business. Or even for the private individual if they're looking at personal leasing one. Of course, there'll be an advantage if you're buying one outright, but not many people buy cars outright anymore. In fact, it's a massively small percentage of all new cars registered. And so if we are going to use some money to do this, I mean, it kind of self funds itself, because as you probably know, 20% of all new cars sold are attracts 20% of all the list price on the vehicle on a new car is 20% of VAT. So on a £30,000 car, you've got a £6,000 of VAT straight away. So there is a balance there. So it will bring some money in. But going back to my earlier point, that's then taking people away from the used car market into the new car market. So what happens to the used car market? Just, if we're going to lower a Peugeot 208, electric 208, or a Vauxhall e-Corsa by £3,750 new, even more, what does that do to the used car? What does that do to the used car where, somebody who operates that operation has invested and got that thing going? What happens there? What I've seen since this date is a massive slowdown in that sub £37,000 car. And I also am expecting a few tweaks to the list prices of some manufacturers who've got cars there or thereabouts, including Tesla. Tesla Model 3's list price is £39,995, very close to that £37,000 threshold. And with the margin they have in the cars, we could possibly see that twinkling down into there. So they're going to apply that. So I'm big for the electrification of transport. I took this role, it's my own role. I'm self-employed, so I made this opportunity for myself based on my passion for this, my passion for electric vehicles, my passion for clean air, my passion for a change in the industry, which it really needed, and into our local environment. And you don't have to have the same view of me on that. I respect that, and it's important each way to do that. So. As I say, everyone has their why are they switching to an electric vehicle. Of course, some do that because of cost savings in terms of benefit in kind, tax savings, salary sacrifice. Some do that to lower the running cost dramatically because they can charge at home on an overnight tariff really cheaply. Some people just like the drive of them, and that was me at the start of this journey. I just like the smoothness, the quietness of the drive, and things like that. And people say, "Oh, cars have got no soul anymore," etc. Well, they may or may not have. I've been in the new car industry since 1995, and at senior management level since 1998, and I've driven thousands of new cars, and I've never really come across found this soul in a car. But that's not my thing, and that's you only have to look at the top 10 selling new cars in the UK over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and you could question, actually, is there a soul in this vehicle, whatever that is. But just like there's no manual choke, just like this all got, we've now got headrests and 5 seat belts in a car, and no tape player. Things change, and this is just a change in terms of how the vehicle is fueled. So yeah, back to the point. Do I think this was a good thing? I really don't think this was a good thing. I don't think it was needed. I think if the action was to be taken anywhere at all, there are two big things that could have been done. 3 things, actually. Firstly, a real structured education for business owners and for for business drivers, for company car drivers and company car users, to actually get some real information, some factual information, some actual data, some scientific data, some real life user data, because there can't be many more products that come out in the last 5 or 10 years that has so much misinformation spread across all social media panels, all comments. I'll probably get some to this, but I see them every day about it. And actually, the reason why electric vehicles are here is because whether people agree with it or not, whether their opinion on it is not, and it's a hoax or whatever it is, the science, independent science, clearly states that we need to lower our emissions, and that starts locally. So if we can bring in a car that replaces another car that's emitting every day, that's driving, this is my view, that's driving up our street, past our schools, past our shops, past our, where my mum lives, where my sister lives, where my friends live, where my daughter walks to school, where my son goes to school. If they're driving past there and emitting fumes, we're breathing that in, whether we like it or not. I live in a beautiful place. I live on the Isle of Wight near the coast, and the air's as fresh as it can be. But even that, I want to see change. I want and climate change is real. Again, this ramble isn't about climate change, but climate change is real. I've done my education on this. I've done further education, and I've studied this. So I'm quite happy to say that. And if you're not, I respect that. I'm not saying you're wrong, but that everyone's got their viewpoints on this, and every day people tell me, this, that, and the other. But that's the thing. So people have their why to do this. So I want to see electrification. So I see education is a massive, massive point in that, and I would love to see, like when we bring up when the country brought in ISO and standards and things like that. I do believe that there could be a real genuine education thing, and it starts with the driver. If you're driving a van, why is the business replace my diesel van, which I can just go in and fill up in the alleged 5 minutes to go and fill it up? Why have they stopped? Why have they made me do that? Why have they made me go into this? So a business needs to understand the why of that. Why do they do that? Because everyone's got a different why. And so I think the education thing is really important. Secondly, here's the big one. And I know there's many people campaigning for this, but VAT on public charging. So let's equal this out. Let's lower this VAT level to 5% on public charging to lower the cost for those people who can't charge at home, or their business hasn't put charge points in. That's another story. But those business haven't put charge points in, and so they've got nowhere to charge the car other than public charging. And there's reports of 70, 80, 90 pence a kilowatt, which is a lot of money. And it kind of neutralizes the savings that can be made. I have a drive at home. We also have charge points in our car park because the company where our offices are invested in them. They're not even expensive to do so, but we can use that on a user basis, and it's a lot cheaper than public charging. Also, a lot more convenient. So I think that any money could have been done to that to get a more equalised thing, and it removes the barrier. One of the barriers I get every day, well, I've got nowhere to charge, and public charging's 80-90p, which there's other ways around that, but that's one of the biggest barrier. Isn't necessarily the outlay for the vehicle, because there's the used car market. People can't or don't want to spend the money on a new car, and I don't blame them. I've not bought a new car myself since 2008 because of the depreciation of a car. So I'm just I've leased cars then since 2008 myself, and through my business since 2004. So that's there. But if they were going to give any money, let's give it to this small van market, the LCV, the last mile deliveries. I've probably seen from my office 12 delivery vans deliver here today, and not one of them's electric. Now, going back, I live on an island. It's 26 miles by 12. So realistically, what can we do? What can a delivery driver do in a day? 200 miles, 300 miles would be an absolute monster of a day here. An average speed of about 21, 22 miles an hour on our urban roads here. but give it the van market. Make these vans affordable for these businesses. Going back to the education, make the education for these businesses who, these businesses, vans are, they're key to their business. These trades, these people that go out, alarm installers, life extinguisher, fire extinguisher services, photocopying, all these people, the florists, the delivery people that are delivering all that, these trades that's going out, electricians, plumbers, and stuff like that. They don't carry heavy stuff, so, and the vans don't have to be massive, and there are vans out there, that are more than capable of doing their job, but they don't know that, and they fear, because of the misinformation, because the public charging are too expensive. Where I live, there's about 80 public chargers now, in that radius. There's loads of public chargers, but people aren't aware of this. The education's not there. Well, let's make it so these last mile vans, because they are coming down our streets, they are coming past your schools, your offices, your shops. They are coming where people ride their bikes. They are coming where you live and open your front door. And let's start with that, rather than just throwing money at a new car that doesn't necessarily need that, because it's working as it is. It was working as it is. There was a positive vibe. There was a flow. There was an increase. It was happening. And now this has come out, and everyone's like, oh, all the negative comments come back, all the vibes come back, and we don't need that. So that's my opinion on this EV grant. I can go off here and another ramble about the public sector and not doing things in the appropriate way. But if you're going to bring an incentive scheme out, bring it out, make it simple, make it traceable, make it relevant, make it understandable to so many people, understand why you're doing it. And right now, we don't have any sort of clarity on that, and that's frustrating for me and a lot of others in this. So yeah, so I was in a few threads on this subject when it was first launched, and I mean, I get this all the time, and I hate, I'm a man myself. I'm 49, I'm nearly 50. So I've been through lots of changes. I went through the digital revolution in terms of how we get paid, how we pay for things, the internet, mobile phones, all that sort of stuff. So I'm used to change. We've come through a change, but I get so many angry men telling me things that the guy starts attacking me, and I had to say, look, this isn't my decision. I'm just commenting on it like everybody else. So it's not my decision. And at that point there, I'd not said I've agreed with it or not. Then, it was a completely transparent thread, and could find the comments if I wanted to. But we get that all the time, and that's just the thing. So if you're going to do something, if you're going to change this, if you want to put a grant in place, that's great. There's been grants before, and it was simple. You got a grant. If your car was X amount of money, you got the discount off the car. This has just been done in a way where nobody knows, and it's created a new fresh line of negative posts, negative vibes. The same people coming back out, I'll never have an electric car, blah blah. Don't have one. It is that simple. But there's lots of people that do, and there's better ways to help the progress and to help the growth of electric. So anyway, this is nearly 25 minutes long, and it was going to be a ramble, and you might get more of these going forward. But if you've listened to it, thank you very much. Comment. Feel free to comment on this. It's there's no script here. There's no bullet points. There's no editing. That's my actual view on this. And I'll say this to anybody: if you want to explore for your business how we can make electric cars affordable for your employees and you, get in touch. Thanks for listening.